All right. So whenever we are doing our community health classes, we want to make sure that you all are familiar with some of the options that we have for finding care within the Bronson service areas. And so the first area that I want to talk to you guys about is our Bronson Health Answers feature. And Bronson Health Answers, if you're looking in the second bullet point there, can help you with MyChart, which is the service that we use for any like electronic medical records, looking up your lab values, your test results. You can message your providers in there. And MyChart can be very helpful, in communicating with your providers as you're moving along in your care with Bronson. And so if you're ever having any issues, Bronson Health Answers can be of service. We've got 2 phone numbers listed there, or you can always email them at answers@bronsonhg.org. Bronson Health Answers can also be very helpful if you are or have been referred for a particular service at Bronson and you're not sure what kind of out-of-pocket expense you're going to have. Bronson Health Answers can help you answer those questions too and kind of get an estimate of what that would look like for you. The very first bullet point that you're seeing is the Find a Doctor or Search for a Specialist feature that we have on the bronsonhealth.com website. You can narrow down your search for providers in your area. If you're looking for a certain specialist, like an endocrinologist or a gastroenterologist, and that is looking or accepting additional new patients, you can narrow down those services. Or if you prefer not to use the website, then you can call our Care Advisor line, which is 269-341-7788. And then additionally, if you're ever having any issues with billing or paying your bill through Bronson, then please reach out to our Bronson Patient Accounting. They are there to help you answer any questions that you might have for billing, or if you need a payment plan, that is a resource for you. So what are our goals for today's class? We're going to hit on 3 main objectives, and we might throw in a few additional things here, but our main objectives for today is that 1, we're going to learn the benefits of walking as a form of physical activity. We're going to review the recommendations that are currently established for best health when it comes to physical activity. And then we're just going to talk about some of our great local area walking spots that we have in the Bronson service areas. And that's how we're going to end our class today. But before we get started, I've got a first poll question for you guys. And so you're going to see that pop up on your screen. The first poll question is, do you enjoy walking as a form of physical activity? You're going to see that on the screen. Your options are most definitely, sometimes, or nope. A lot of you guys are coming in and answering. Thank you so much. We got 92% participation on that. Thank you guys so much. So what I assumed is, since you're coming to a walking class, that most of you enjoy walking as a form of physical activity, and that looks to be true. 67% of you say most definitely you enjoy walking as a form of physical activity. 29% of you say sometimes, and 4% are saying no, definitely not the preferred form. Thank you guys so much for participating in that poll. It's good to kind of gauge where we're all at with our preferred forms of physical activity. What's the research say for walking? Well, according to the American Heart Association, they say that there are reports, right, that there is a link, and many other organizations say the same thing, that there is a link between being inactive or sitting too much with a higher risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, colon and lung cancer, and unfortunately, an early death overall. However, there is good news, right? The research on the opposite end of the spectrum also shows us that being more active helps us live longer and healthier lives. So walking is just one of the ways that we can help increase our physical activity so we can work towards that reduced risk of those certain diseases that we mentioned, like heart disease and diabetes. So, what benefits do you enjoy when walking? I want to hear from you guys. What are the benefits for those that love walking as a form of physical activity? Go ahead and either unmute and share with the group or type your answer in the chat box. I'll give you a second to unmute or write out your answer. What benefits do you enjoy when walking?
I enjoy looking at creation, at nature, and the different trees and the wildflowers and plants and things that come up during springtime into the fall.
Has anybody started to see a few spring flowers coming out, popping out of the soil? Oh, so exciting. All right, I'm getting lots of answers in the chat, so let's kind of just go through some of those and see what benefits you guys enjoy from physical activity or walking. So somebody says walking and talking with friends, enjoying the sights of nature, being outside and breathing the fresh air, walking in nature in general, the benefit of weight loss or relaxation. Another vote for relaxing nature, scenery, fresh air, meeting new folks sometimes. Yes, you never know who you're going to see on the walking trail right along with you. And the neighborhood and friends, yep, if you've got a good neighborhood that you can walk in, saying hello to all your neighbors. Enjoying reduced stress and just being outside, nature, getting fresh air, absolutely. Oh, taking photos, Barry, I love that. And smelling the seasons, Janet, I love that too, right? Spring just has a certain scent about it, doesn't it? That little bit of a rainy scent. I love that you brought in the scent, as well as the visual that we get from walking. I love that you guys have a variety of different things there. So I love that. Very good. All right. So what are some benefits? You guys talked about your very own personal benefits, right? But walking is such a great form of physical activity because one, it's kind of inexpensive, isn't it? Right? We don't have to join a fancy gym in order to participate in this form of physical activity. It generally doesn't require any special skills to participate in walking. You guys already talked about how it just provides you such great benefits of just being outside and getting all that good fresh air. It's a good excuse, right? We do spend a lot of times indoors, probably most of us could say that. And so it's a good excuse to kind of get outside and experience that fresh air. It also allows time for us to enjoy nature, all the sights and the sounds, and Janet says the smells too. So thank you for adding that to the presentation. So what are some forms of physical benefits that we receive from walking? Well, according to the AARP and the Journal for the American Medical Association research, the research shows that if we are over the age of 40, there is research to show that the more steps that we take once we're over that age of 40, there is a lowered all-cause mortality. So essentially just, death for any reason, right? We heard there from the American Heart Association that inactivity does and can lead to an early death. We see in the research as part of the good news that the more steps that we're taking over the age of 40 does lower our all-cause mortality. Additionally, above and beyond that, we see that there is a 51% lower risk of that all-cause mortality when a person is taking 8,000 steps a day in comparison to 4,000 steps a day. And I am most definitely not saying that one is better than the other. Obviously, the research says that more steps is the decreased risk. But if we're participating in 4,000 steps a day, that can be a win for some people. So recognizing where you're at, what the research says, and if you're counting steps, there may be room for improvement in increasing how many steps a day you are taking. Additionally, above and beyond that research, that same study showed that if we're even extending above and beyond the 10,000 steps that we usually hear from the recommendation, if we're taking 12,000 steps a day, that results in a 65% lower risk of all-cause mortality. And again, that research from AARP in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I mean, that sounds too good to be true, right? That's probably for those people that are running and jogging and taking those vigorous strolls through the park. But that's not what the research showed. The research showed that even those lower intensity strolls appeared to be just as beneficial as those vigorous strolls. Keep that in mind when you are recognizing where you're at with your physical fitness, that lower intensity and starting somewhere can be very beneficial for the physical benefits of walking. What else does the research say for physical benefits? We also see that there is research to show that physical activity, or walking in particular, helps with sleep patterns, right? So this is from the AARP and a study done by Morehouse School of Medicine that shows that being socially active and walking as a form of exercise shows that older adults are actually 50% less likely to have trouble falling asleep and then staying asleep, right? So we all know that sleep is an important component to our brain health in the long term of our life, but sleep health is also very important for our heart health too. So walking is going to be good for our brain and our heart, but walking being an excellent form of exercise that helps us with sleep, that also gives us benefit in those areas too with our brain and our health. So it's all very interconnected, isn't it? So what are some mental benefits of walking? Well, again, this research is from the AARP and research conducted by the University of Maryland that shows that walking actually grows the area of your brain that is responsible for memory. And it's not just walking specifically, even though they did point that out. They also show that any form of regular aerobic exercise will show these results as well in growing those areas of our brain that is responsible for memory. So aerobic exercise, what do I mean by that? Aerobic exercises are exercises that are increasing your heart rate, right? So there's walking, maybe there's brisk jogging, maybe there's climbing some stairs, maybe it's jumping jacks or doing some swimming. There are multiple ways in which we can increase our heart rate. Again, whatever your preferred form of aerobic exercise is, regular aerobic exercise has been shown to grow that area of our brain that is responsible for our memory. So in the study conducted by the University of Maryland, it was a group of 55 to 85-year-old people. And it showed that even just after one single session of exercise, there was increased activation of brain circuits that are associated with our memory. It also went on to show that even for people that maybe are experiencing some difficulty with their memory in this moment, exercise can still be beneficial for that particular area of the brain in improving memory. So again, just after one single session, we see that exercise can be beneficial for our brain and our memory. All right, what other mental benefits do we see? And again, I'm just highlighting on a few of these benefits for physical and mental. We obviously know it goes above and beyond this. The list is endless, really. So from AARP and the Journal of American Medical Association, the Psychiatry Division had some information on walking and physical activity in regards to a diagnosis of depression as a potential benefit. So this research showed that walking can actually lower your risk of becoming depressed by 26% for each major increase in physical activity. So what was the study showing as far as that major increase in physical activity? Well, Their example was that instead of watching TV for an hour, that major increase would be the swapping of watching that television and instead going for a walk for an hour. That major increase in physical activity, or that swap, actually shows that we can decrease our risk of becoming depressed by 26% for each of those major increases in physical activity. I thought that was pretty astounding. All right. So, what other, like we talked about some, a lot of mental components and benefits that you get from walking. But what kind of physical benefits do you personally enjoy from walking? Go ahead and unmute yourself or submit that into the chat. Do you experience any of these benefits that I've talked about? Do you have better sleep? What has been your experience? Again, either unmute or enter that into the chat for me.
I know for me, it helps to decrease the amount of pain I have with dealing with arthritis. And so for some reason, like the chemical in the brain, like it blocks the pain, because when you walk and you're enjoying the fresh air and the sunshine, or talking with friends, or listen to the sounds like some of the ones bring out, it truly does help. Like it's medication in a sense, but it's healthier for you.
A bit of a distraction, yes. You're going out, your mind is on something else. You're not focused so much on that pain. Thanks for sharing that, Kimberly. Somebody else in the chat also says that they experience less pain when walking for physical activity. Joints are more flexible, muscles being more flexible too. Somebody says they have better mood and motivation. That's one of the challenges, right? Finding time for exercise and physical activity. And we get tired by the end of the day. Our motivation is lower. We make that decision not to necessarily exercise, but when we do make the time and that decision to exercise, boy, do we feel good afterwards, right? And it is establishing that pattern and that habit. Maybe even scheduling the walking, right, to create that habit. Bridget mentions that she's got better sleep and a refreshed feeling, almost euphoria. I love that. Clearing of the mind while walking, increased flexibility. Walking to the shops for necessities is good too. Gets joints moving, feeling accomplished, a spiritual connection, walking in the woods, enjoying all of the nature. Absolutely. I love that you guys kind of brought some of those physical components that you guys are seeing from sleep and pain and mobility. But knee pain has prevented some mobility recently, Barry mentions. Absolutely. And so, again, everybody's physical activity preferences are going to be different. And listening to your body and what you can handle as far as physical activity is concerned. When we are dealing with maybe some joint issues, there are great workarounds. Maybe walking is not what you can do right now, but there are so many resources out there for like chair exercise movements that you can really get your heart rate up and still count that as physical activity in those aerobic exercises. What are the recommendations? We've probably heard these recommendations potentially in the past, but it is recommended that at minimum, we should be receiving or participating in 150 minutes of a moderate paced aerobic exercise every week. So 150 minutes per week. That might sound like a big number, but if you look at my last bullet point there, we can break it up, right? So it can be 5 days a week, 30 minutes each day as a form of breaking that goal up. And even if 30 minutes at one time seems a challenge to you, you can break that up into smaller increments, right? Or maybe you're just on a time crunch and you don't have 30 minutes all at one time. We still see the benefit in that aerobic exercise, walking in particular here, when we are even just spending 5-10 minute bursts of walking, right? So 10 minutes after breakfast, 10 minutes after lunch, 10 minutes after dinner, and guess what? Check, we just got our 30 minutes that day, right? So we can break that up and still see benefits when it comes to those physical benefits and those mental benefits that the research shows. Above and beyond that, and I know that's not what we're talking about today, but I can't go over the physical activity recommendations without also acknowledging the recommendations for muscle strengthening. And so muscle strengthening is recommended at least 2 to 3 days per week. So muscle strengthening might be things like using little hand weights, maybe resistance bands. If you're in the gym, then obviously you have your weight resistance machines. But if you don't, go to the gym, you can find some things at home to have available to participate in that muscle strengthening, which is just as beneficial and should be combined with our aerobic style exercises too. Again, it is important to, understand where we're at, meet ourselves where we're at, and recognize that this is the ultimate goal, right? If we're just doing, maybe no exercise right now, and we're looking at that 150 minutes, start slow. That's totally okay to increase that amount and try to achieve 150 minutes as a long-term goal while increasing that intensity over time, right? Maybe right now we're just walking at a very leisurely and casual pace. That's great. It's a start, right? We're working towards moderate paced aerobic exercises as the recommendation for most of us here. So what does moderate paced even actually mean? So moderate paced can be described as, while you are participating in, let's say, this walking, right, that you are able to hold a conversation with the person that you are with without having to gasp for air, right? That conversation should take a little bit more effort, right? You are exercising and walking, but you should still be able to hold that conversation without gasping for air. That's moderate pace. If you're gasping for air, that's more of a vigorous style exercise, and there are recommendations for that, but that's not what we're talking about today. So moderate paced, we kind of call it the talk test, right? You can talk and walk and hold that conversation without huffing and puffing and gasping for air, but still should take a little bit of effort. All right, so I know today's conversation is about walking, but what other forms of aerobic style exercises do you guys enjoy? Go ahead and unmute or share in the chat. And somebody has already talked about maybe that in the chat too, about walking on different surface levels and terrains, and rough trails versus paved trails can all give you a different intensity of walking depending upon where you're at in your physical fitness journey. Somebody mentions Zumba and bike riding and swimming and yard work, lots of yard work. Yeah, who is still raking sticks and branches from all of those storms that we had this winter? I'm going to be doing that for a while still. Somebody says pickleball. Love that. I have never played pickleball, but it looks like so much fun. Cardio drumming, more biking, more swimming. Yeah, swimming is a great combination exercise, as most are, right? You get your aerobic style exercise, right, with the swimming, but that water resistance kind of pushing against you, you get some muscle strengthening in there too. We got somebody using a recumbent bike for 45 minutes a day. And she says her bike actually has resistance bands on it too. So that's nifty. Yeah. And so very good. Joan, thank you so much for sharing that, right? Using the recumbent bike because there is some neuropathy in the feet. And so that limits, the sensation and the feeling in your feet. So you're meeting yourself where you're at and doing physical activity that works for you. I love that. Biking and step aerobics. Yes. The jazzercise. Silver Sneakers has lots of step videos too. Is that something that you purchase, Silver Sneakers? I'm familiar with some of the classes in the area, Silver Sneakers, but when you said it has many step videos, is that something that we can find on like YouTube or something? Share with me if you can answer that question, Diane. Zumba, bike riding, and yard work. Yes, YouTube. Yeah, she says you can find Silver Sneakers videos on YouTube, she says. Love that. Thank you for sharing that resource. All right, very good. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Again, we know aerobic exercise has lots of benefits, and it's not just walking. It's all of these exercises that you guys have shared too. So thank you. So today just so happens, I didn't plan it or anything, right? Today just so happens to be National Take a Walk in the Park Day. How exciting! How exciting. National Take a Walk in the Park Day. So I thought this was a fun fact that I found. And I think we probably would all agree with it based upon the chatting that you guys have participated in, that people that regularly visit parks are actually reported to have better mental and physical health. Sounds like we would all agree with that after hearing all of you guys have to say in the chat. So fun fact, let's take a walk in the park today. It might be a little chilly, but at least the sun is shining. I kind of made the joke earlier when I was planning out this class. I was so hopeful it wasn't going to be snowing while I'm telling you guys to go walk in the park. So I just wanted to share some local parks in our Bronson service areas. I want to hear from you guys too, right? Because this is not the end all be all list, but just kind of sharing some of the area parks. So I'm in Battle Creek, so way more familiar with the Battle Creek location. So I want to hear from where you guys are in your favorite parks too. So let me kind of go through my list, and then I want to hear from you. So in Battle Creek, we've got the historic Bridge Park. Not sure if anybody's been there, but I'll give you guys the opportunity to kind of tell me. And some of the fun features with the historic Bridge Park in Battle Creek is that there are 5 different restored bridges that are great for picture taking. I think it was Barry that shared that they enjoy taking photos while you are at the parks. It's a great place for biking. You guys shared that. There's also a kayak launch. There is the Lila Arboretum in Battle Creek, which also features a community garden and the Fantasy Forest. If you've never been to that, the Fantasy Forest is using the stumps of trees that have been cut down to create some artwork. And so each stump of the tree is got a different theme, like just fantasy sort of fairy tale theme and characters carved into and painted on these stumps. Lila Arboretum also offers disc golf. And I think my favorite feature of the Arboretum is that there are 2,500 different marked trees and plants, right? So, we go through all these nature trails and we're like, ooh, what's that flower? Ooh, I've never seen that tree before. These are all marked. So now you know, right? And then it also includes a 1-mile paved walking trail. And then there is the Lanier Park, which does, trail through the downtown area. There is 26 miles in total, but there are smaller loops that range from 1 mile to 10 miles, depending again where your fitness level is at. And another fun feature is that there are historical and cultural points of interest, right? So statues, reading material that you can kind of learn a few things about the history of Battle Creek right along with your walking. I see some of you guys sharing some things in the and so obviously somebody is from Kalamazoo, right? Bronson Park, that's my next one. That one is right in the heart of downtown Kalamazoo. And I did not know that is the oldest park in Kalamazoo. And I know they have lots of fun events and decorate during Christmas time, which I think is fun to just kind of increase physical activity and walking, even during the winter months, right? Get out and enjoy the Christmas lights too. Somebody says Milham Park too, which I know is in Kalamazoo area as well. I chose on Mayor's Riverfront Park. I do think that there is a benefit to hearing, right, the water as you're walking too. So this one's located right alongside the Kalamazoo River and has many paved walking trails. If anybody has been there before, please share your experience with the Mayor's Riverfront Park in Kalamazoo. Let's see here. We've got the South Haven area. We've got the Van Buren Trail State Park, which has 14 miles of walking trail. I thought it was fun that these walking trails run through farmland and wooded areas and blueberry fields. I mean, how often do you get to walk on a trail that's running through blueberry fields? How fun is that? And then they've got the Michigan Heritage Trail, which I just learned about. And that is on the Cal Haven Trail, which is another one we all know. It connects Kalamazoo and South Haven, great for long distance biking. But this Michigan Heritage Trail is just a section of the Cal Haven Trail. And again, there's just a historical component to it. So they've put up 31 different informational panels. You can walk from site to site, right? It does stretch over, obviously, over a longer length of, so maybe you're driving to a few of these depending upon your physical fitness. But there's 31 informational panels that share the historical stories of the South Haven area. So I thought that was a fun, walking doesn't just have to be, a physical fitness component, right? We can learn a few things along the way too. So I thought it was fun to kind of bring that into our conversation. You guys have already started sharing. I love it. What is your favorite park? Go ahead and unmute and share, or continue chatting in the group, so we can learn about some of the other area parks that people love. I'm reading through. Somebody says they've been to Bridge Park and love it. Yeah.
I love the
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I love the celery flex in
Yes.
Portage.
Yes, thank you. I didn't even think about that one. I've only been there once, but if I remember correctly, there are some like wooden trails there. Yes, so you're walking on not necessarily paved, but a wooded trail. I like that. Celery Flats, very good. Somebody says the Texas Township Park on Texas Drive, I'm assuming that's Kalamazoo, is the park you enjoy. It has a walking trail around the perimeter of the park. I love that. Let's see what everybody else is talking about here. Kleinstuck, and I'm assuming I'm saying that correctly, is a nature preserve in Kalamazoo, rough and smooth trails, and it's right in town. Very good. I've not heard of that one. Thank you for sharing. Ashtimo Township Park.
Excuse me, there's
yeah.
Excuse me, yeah, there's actually several preserves in Southwest Michigan. Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy has 54 preserves in Southwest Michigan, about 8 counties. Right in Kalamazoo, and somebody already mentioned Kleinstock. That's about, when you count all of the contiguous property with it, that's about 88 acres. It's right in the middle of Kalamazoo. And there's Bow in the Clouds, which belongs to Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy. It's about 125 acres, and that's northeast in Kalamazoo. And then, of course, Asylum Lake, that's 274 acres, and that's in southwest Kalamazoo, over by Drake Road and 131 out in that area. So there's a lot of nice trails out there and a lot of stuff to see. I know, because I volunteer out there a lot. So.
Very good. I love your knowledge. Thank you for bringing it to the table. Yes, I've heard of Asylum Park, have not been. And then the other one, I wanted to make sure I heard it correctly. Bow in the Clouds, is that correct?
Yeah, Bow in the Clouds. It's just in back of Nazareth College, or the place where they house retired nuns there. It's Nazareth Road and Gull Road, back in that area.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing that. What's your favorite?
My backyard. Yeah, I put a 25-acre prairie in my back. I had a grant from Fish and Wildlife, so I spent a lot of time back there. It's nice, it's pretty.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. Just create your own favorite park. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. So I think it's Joan Alsabo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So if you want to unmute and share about that, she says, great nature walking trail in Texas Corners in Kalamazoo. Thank you, Joe, so much for bringing in some of those outlying areas, Richland Community Park, Galesburg Community Park, 5 county parks in Kalamazoo, Ott Preserve. Yes, Pamela, you're in my neck of the woods, Battle Creek. Yes, Ott Preserve, love Ott Preserve. Yankee Springs around Gun Lake has some beautiful trails. She says that's in Shelbyville, Yankee Springs. Pilgrim Haven, I'm assuming that's a park that's in South Haven. Kellogg Forest is a great place as well. And they've got lots of festivals and events that they do there too, right? They just had the Maple Syrup Festival. I think that was at Kellogg Forest. Lillian Anderson Arboretum next to Ashtimo Township Park. I think the arboretums are special places. They really are. There's so much work that gets done into them. Thank you guys so much for sharing your favorite parks. Does anybody else want to unmute and share theirs? Asylum Park at Drake and Prairie Parkview is fabulous and walking in nature photos. Okay. Sable is at the 9th Street near KVCC. All right, very good. I know I've learned about a few new parks that I want to go to. Bow in the Cloud sounds like that's just an interesting name. I like that. So thank you guys so much for sharing. Hopefully you guys have all learned about a new park that maybe you want to kind of travel out to. I know I need to get to South Haven. I want to walk through Blueberry Fields. That sounds like a blast. All right, so these were our goals today. So did we learn about the benefits, some of the benefits of walking as physical activity? Yep, we talked about physical, mental benefits. You know, we hit on some of them. We know that they're widespread and we could go on and talking about all of the benefits. We reviewed the recommendations for physical activity, and we got to learn about some of our beautiful walking spots in a variety of different areas and communities. You know, I didn't necessarily touch on, but, you know, Marshall and Albion have lots of beautiful parks to walk in as well. So our next classes, I want to share with you guys. You can see them on the screen. Those QR codes are available for you to scan if you would like to do that as well. But our next class is coming up next week, it looks like April 5th. Going to be from 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that is going to be a healthy cooking class. One of our health educators is going to be making a breakfast skillet live. You can cook along if you want to, but the recipe will be provided, and we're going to show you how to make a breakfast skillet. And then on April 6th, one of our health educators is going to be talking about how, as a community, we can take action to help out the health of our community as a whole. And that is, you know, in conjunction with the fact that it's National Public Health Week. I will be teaching a healthy living class on April 13th about making lunch count. Lunch, I think, is a meal that a lot of us, you know, skip because of maybe a busy day. And so we're going to learn about how to just make lunch count as far as fueling ourselves and just taking a break in the middle of the day too. And then we'll have another healthy cooking class on April 19th. And those are jam jar salads, right? So how to make a little salad ahead of time in one of those little jars. So that'll be fun to see what kind of things are created in that class. So we hope you join us for one of those classes. We've got a jam-packed April. These are just the next 4. But if you go to bronsonhealth.com, click on classes and events. If you click on either physical activity, exercise, nutrition, one of those buttons, you will see the rest of our April classes as well. And we are working on creating a very exciting May and June class schedule for you guys too. So we hope to see you guys again. Thank you so much for joining. I will stay on for a few more minutes if you guys have any questions or any suggestions on topics that you would like to see for us in the future. I will be here and stay on, but I appreciate you guys so much being here with us. Thank you. And thank you, Nikki, for addressing that. Yeah, sometimes it's not nice outside, right? And so we can do exercise videos at home or going to one of our local mall options. Yep, Crosswood Mall. Yep, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that information too. Thank you, guys.